Good evening, everyone. This is Scott Jones. This is my EDL 851, Module 13. Um, Going through the case study, there's some background information that is kind of left to the imagination. The first thing that we need to understand is what the background of the administrator is and what the background of Mrs. Stevens is. We don't know what his background at the school is, how long he's been there, what his relationship with the Board of Education is, or what his relationship with his school personnel is. He could be a new administrator, or he could be a long-standing tenured administrator with a proven track record. We also don't know what Mrs. Stevens' background is. We know she is recently new to this school. We don't know what her degree in education is or what her previous educational experience is. All of that is kind of left in a gray area. We also don't know what the evaluation process consists of. We know that he has observed her on random walkthroughs. We know that he's observed her in a professional evaluation, but we don't know anything about any other evaluation of Mrs. Stevens. We don't know anything about a pre-evaluation meeting or how many times he's observed her up to this point in time. Okay, the post-evaluation meeting was very abrupt and it wasn't very professional. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of information there. We also don't know what the district policy is on the evaluation of school personnel, and the conclusion of this is left in the dark as well. Going through the questions, how does one conduct frequent classroom visits and walkthroughs and observation and provide constructive, meaningful, actionable feedback that supports the development of faculty and staff? To me, this is pretty straightforward and honest. It'd be nice to know the district's stance on the walkthrough observations and what they're looking to gain from it. Is this just a classroom management tool, or is it a way to monitor teacher performance, whether teachers are meeting expectations, whether they're following curriculum? What do they look to gain from this? It'd also be nice to know if there's any positive feedback provided. Is there something you expect your teachers to focus on every week, or is this just a general walkthrough where you just want to make sure that students are on task and the teachers are doing their job? Question number 2, what sources and types of data can be used to provide feedback to teachers so that they can improve student learning? As taught in past modules, formative and summative assessments are very important here. Informal observation, and as always, standardized test scores are always important. Question number 3, what role do formal and informal assessments play in evaluating the effectiveness of school instruction and programs? This is pretty simple. Formal assessments are always the baseline for academic achievements. Okay, so what are your standardized tests telling you? Informal assessments have always been known as benchmarking tests. Okay, so we benchmark student performance, mastery of programs, where they stand next to their classmates. What types and sources of data can be used to monitor and evaluate instructional strategies? We always use informal observations and random checks for understanding. We can also use state standardized test scores. Question number 4, what are some sources of teacher evaluation data and information? The things that popped in my mind here are professional development opportunities, how they collaborate with their staff, and how they handle themselves in professional responsibilities. Again, we talked earlier in this module about how teachers are the fit for the school. That plays a very big role in your professional responsibilities and plays a very big role in how you fit into the community and how you fit in with your students. What are the responsibilities of the principal in helping a teacher become more effective? I think as an administrator, you have to include them in your vision. Partner the new teachers up with quality mentors. And one thing that our school district has done in recent years, you provide mentors opportunities to observe them as much as once a quarter. This allows those mentoring teachers to sit in a classroom and observe these newer model teachers, give them hints, give them expectations, and kind of guide them along in their first year of teaching. That's proved to be very beneficial and something that I can really relate to. You can also provide positive feedback when needed, provide constructive criticism when needed. I tell our players, I'm going to be your biggest critic. That's what I'm paid to do. I'm also going to be your biggest fan when you do things correctly. And I think that's important for people to see and important for people to hear. You also have to allow opportunities for professional development. Anytime our teachers want any type of professional development opportunities, our faculty and staff are always supportive of that goal. Next question, what teacher characteristics and behaviors, if any, are known to be associated with teacher effectiveness? It should be observable to a supervisor during classroom observation. This can be seen through a general walkthrough. It can also be seen through a formal evaluation. Your classroom management skills, how the students conduct themselves in the classroom, how you engage them in the classroom. You can read into a lesson plan and tell whether the teacher prepared or not, and whether the students have been prepared for that lesson. If the teacher's going to fly by the seat of their pants, and if they're going to mock a lesson for you, and their students are not prepared, and their students act like this is out of the norm, then it's probably out of the norm for them. Okay, what type of student involvement is in the classroom, and you can also read the classroom culture and compare that to other classroom cultures. All of these things are very straightforward. All of them are read and observed in different social keys and social norms. What, if anything, can be done by a supervisor to obtain an accurate impression of how a teacher usually acts in a classroom situation? For me, the easiest answer to this is random classroom walkthroughs. In all the schools that I've been at, it's very customary. It's very straight and up forward, and they understand that it's going to happen as much as once a week. And it's a great way to understand and interact with your staff. You understand what's going on in their classroom, what's going on in their life. It's a great way to engage in students instead of just pigeonholing yourself in a corner office in the building or at the district office down on Main Street. Now you engage yourself in the building and with your students, you're a familiar face, and there's more respect, and there's an idea that you care about them, and you have a buy-in in the school and the culture. What factors seem to be influencing the conclusions drawn by the principal based on his observations of Mrs. Stevens? The first things that we see here are classroom apathy. The next things we see are low student engagement. And the final thing that he lists on his documentation is not responsive to supervision. The conclusions that can be drawn from here. Classroom apathy could be based off of the students. I've been in situations and in classroom cultures where it's not customary for students to be engaged or even care about their education. Some of that comes from home, some of that comes from the community, some of that comes from the school's vision. So what expectations are set in the classroom? Okay, I'm a firm believer that students will rise to the occasion. If you set the bar high for them, you set the expectations high for them, they will try to meet that standard of excellence. If you hold them accountable, they'll hold themselves accountable in the future, and you can provide a culture in your classroom. Low student engagement. If you're persistent, your students will be engaged. It may not be their culture when you get there. It may not be the culture of the school, but if you are consistent with it, if you push them to, if you interact with them and you care about them, they will engage with you. I tried to switch my lessons up. At the beginning of the year, we always did a professional learning opportunity. We always tried to figure out how each student learns best, and I tried to switch our lessons up based on that. We had PowerPoint presentations where I would lecture for a day. We would add cooperative learning lessons. We would have hands-on projects. We would try to customize our lessons to all sorts of diverse learning styles. And the final one would be not responsive to supervision. One thing that's left in the dark in this module and in this case study is what type of improvement plan has been put into place. If this is the first time that she's been supervised, if this is the first time that she's been evaluated, how have you gotten to her in the past, and how have you tried to encourage her to change her ways? The strengths and the weaknesses of the particular teacher evaluation. The strengths would be it's very easy to read and very easy to understand. The weaknesses, based on that, it's not a rubric format, so it's very subjective where you believe they fall in each category. There's no clear objectives, just like there's no rubric, and there's no place for comments or improvements. What is our current school board and administrative policy? We've got a very open door policy. It's customary for administrators to do random walkthroughs. It's customary for all of our building administrators to walk through, whether they're an elementary principal, a high school principal, or their superintendent. All of them will poke their heads in the door. This is how they stay in tune with what's going on in their building. It's how they stay in tune with the kids. And it's how they stay in tune with what type of curriculum is being taught and how they stay connected. I've also included a link to our school evaluation process if anybody is curious and wants to go through and browse through that. State laws or court decisions that would have a bearing on whether the teacher in this case can be legally dismissed in your district. There's none that I know of. As I've explained in past modules and in past papers, it's been very customary in our district to go along with the type of evaluation process and there hasn't been any rebuttals or anybody refusing to sign their paperwork. It's been a pleasure going through this module with you. It's been a pleasure taking this course with you, and I hope to learn something from you in the future. Thank you.